Okay, now on this episode of going through the SOPs, this is going to be for the color change. So, right now I have some filament loaded. That's just going to be some gold filament, which you're going to see here in a sec. And right now, since the printer has finished its print and we've got nothing on the build plate, I can go ahead and look over here and see that my temperature is all the way down to 23 degrees Celsius. So, what that means for me is I can't swap this filament out yet. Let's say that I have a print that requires, a navy base. Then I'm going to go ahead and have to heat up this hot end so that the plastic can go ahead and get molten again so that I can actually pull it out of the extruder in the back. So this extruder is very, very important for the filament change. Let me go ahead and try to get this up to temperature, preheat PLA, and depending upon what you want to do, you can either select preheat PLA end, or preheat PLA bed. So just heating up the bed is going to heat up the bed to about 60 degrees Celsius because that's what PLA binds the bed the best with. This PLA end is only going to heat up the hot end, and this preheat PLA is going to do both. It's going to heat up the end and the bed. So for me, since I just need to go ahead and do the filament, I can go ahead and just do the end. So now I can see my bed is currently set to 0, but it's at 26, and now I set my nozzle to actually get up to 200 degrees Celsius, and it's slowly ramping up right there. Now, about the time that this gets to 100 degrees Celsius, and you see this tick past 100, then you can start to pull out the filament, because the filament should be relatively molten around then. You don't have to wait for it to ramp all the way up to the 200 to begin to swap. So, that being said, let's see if I can place you in a place where that's not too precarious. Aha. Oh my goodness, I'm perfect. Okay, so now that you're up here, you can get a top angle view of the extruder. If you look to the back of your SOP, you can also see more instructions and references to it. This is just a live action. So, what I'm going to do here, whenever I want to remove the PLA, since I can see that my temperature for the nozzle has gotten all the way up to about 150 degrees Celsius already, is I'm just going to go ahead and push in on this spring in the back while taking this index finger and putting it down on the motor. Whenever I do that, I open up those gears in the back. Those gears actually feed the filament into the hot end through these tubes. So I have to open up the gap between those teeth and gears to actually be able to pull the filament. Otherwise, those teeth are still going to be locked on. So I'm just going to continue to pull, continue to pull, continue to pull, continue to pull, while maintaining custody of the end, and then continue to pull, and bada bing, bada boom. It's going to go ahead and come out. Now, number one thing that I don't want to do is I don't want to go ahead and press in this spring and then also press something up top like this, because this metal piece is just free floating, all right? So if I open this but also place my finger up top, that's going to crush the teeth back on the filament and it's not going to be able to be pulled through. So don't do that. Please just go ahead and take your thumb, press out, or index pressed right here, or pressed in the back of the motor, anything but actually touching this top part and pushing the teeth back together again. So, going back to the filament, I went ahead and got this roll all set, like so. It's currently on the end free. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and reel this back just a little bit until it gets to the point where I have like 1 inch left and spare, then I can then go ahead and anchor in these holes that are on the perimeter of the spool. The reason why I go ahead and anchor this spool like so, and then pull all the way through, is because if I don't do that, then this spool is essentially just a tightly wound spring, and it's going to unravel itself, and then if I don't reattach it correctly, it has the potential to go ahead and create a knot, which means that the filament definitely will not be fed through the extruder and very bad things will happen. What I mean by that is if I let go of this end, it's going to unravel. That was very anticlimactic. Sometimes with newer spools, they have a lot more tension on them, and then this would go ahead and get wrapped around like so. Oop. So, there you go. And then whenever I feed this through, I'm going to create a knot like that where it overlaps each other. Now this will, loosen itself and go all the way down until it hits the corner of the spool, and then by the time that it gets there, it will begin to stop feeding filament into the extruder. So very, very, very bad if that crosses over. That's why you always anchor. So the way to solve this, if you do happen to do it, I'm going to have to put my phone down for this, but you go ahead and unravel the filament all the way until you get back to your factory default. So here's a good example of me just continuously pulling on it and it getting snagged on that part right there. So it may not get snagged immediately after you start undoing it, but it will eventually, go to the corner and they get fully snagged. So always, always, always anchor your filament. Please, please, please. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and feed this all through. Unwind this all the way to the point where I get to factory, which is going to look something like this. And then, just so long as I continue to apply tension on this spool, I can just go ahead and rewind it, and it will be all good. The only reason why not happens is because this filament wasn't under tension whenever it was bound. So it doesn't have to look pretty. In fact, I'm probably going to botch this up quite a bit as I re-spool it. But just go ahead and spin it on the spindle itself until you get all the way back. And then anchor it. Oh, perfect. So, again, it doesn't look glorious, but it was just under pressure the entire time as I was spooling this back. Then anchored it, and bada bing, bada boom. I'm all set with that. So now that that's all done, this can be put off to the side or in the back, and I can go ahead and grab this navy and begin to load the spool. Now, it's a little difficult to load filament into here, and if you're just starting out with a brand new printer and it didn't have any filament in it before, and you're going to load it, be sure that you heat up your hot end to temperature so that you can actually push the filament all the way through. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. So pretty much any time that you approach a 3D printer and you have intentions of actually using it, make sure that the hot end is actually hot so you can properly use it. Now, this filament right here, if I can get this to properly zoom in, there we go. It has a very nice tip on it, so I shouldn't have any problem getting past one of the largest hurdles of 3D printing, which is just feeding this filament through the extruder. You see, one of the problems with the extruder is the filament has to get through here, get through the teeth. Isn't too difficult. You just go ahead and open up the teeth again and then continue to fling through. But the main problem is where this woven tube and this metal piece connect, there's a bit of a ridge. So that ridge might cause your filament to get stuck. So if I take this filament and push it through right now, because it has a very nice tip to it that's completely rounded on all sides, and I continue to feed it, it will pass through. And now you can actually see where that filament is in the Bowden tube. So I will continue to push through. Now, if your end is completely blunt, and that typically happens whenever your filament breaks, it will have a completely blunt end. Then there's a really easy way to solve that and try to feed it through the extruder. What you're going to go ahead and do is you're going to go ahead and take a pair of clippers. You're going to take the end of that spool and you're going to go ahead and cut that at a 45-degree angle so that it will enter into the extruder a lot easier. Now sometimes this tip will actually get caught on where the Bowden tube and this metal piece actually meet. You can see how this would be a real problem whenever it would dig into that side. So one of the things that you can do to help alleviate that is you can actually snip off just the tip of that point to make both sides a 45-degree angle, like so. And then you should have just as easy of a time loading it as what I just demonstrated to you. So, bring this back, goes through the top. Open up the teeth. Push this in. And now it's passing through the teeth. It's hit the part where the bone tube meets metal. Continue to finagle it, and bada bing, bada boom. It is currently going through. So now comes the next fun part. Let's see if I can do this. See the nozzle, and of course you're gonna have a really difficult time. There we go. And just there we go. Okay. So I can't hold you there for a super long time, but what I can do is just place this bottle. Wow, look at that. So engineered. Okay. So I'm going to continue to press this PLA through until it actually gets to the hot end. Now, if I'm quiet right here, you might be able to hear a couple of pops. Nope, not today. I got one or two pops, but the pops may or may not happen. What should happen though is as I'm continuing to push this PLA through while the hot end is hot, I should be able to see some PLA actually going through the hot end, as you can see right here. That shows me that the PLA has properly seated itself, and since I can see the color that I'm expecting to see, that navy blue, that tells me that it's all the way set. And that is how you change out your PLA, whether you're starting from a new spool that has completely cooled down, or whether you just need to color swap on the fly. Yeah. Oh my goodness, now the camera really does want to do. All right. Or it's upside down. Whoops. Okay. Yep, and that is it. So, I'm Matthew Underwood. This has been the 3D Printing SOP. Thank you so much for listening.